I arrived at TechVantage Solutions at 6:45 that morning, coffee in hand, ready for the quarterly review presentation I had spent 3 weeks perfecting. My boss Derek called me into his office at exactly 7:01. No greeting, just a termination letter and a security escort, effective immediately. No explanation. 15 years of loyalty erased in 90 seconds. The security guard watched as I packed my desk into a cardboard box, my hands shaking. By 7:30, I stood in the parking lot, bewildered, holding everything that had mattered from my career. I sat in my car, unable to turn the key in the ignition. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The cardboard box sat on the passenger seat next to me, filled with framed photos, a coffee mug that said Best Marketing VP, a cactus plant I had kept alive for 8 years, and a stack of awards I no longer cared about. None of it made sense. I kept replaying the scene in Derek's office. He had barely looked at me, just slid the termination letter across his desk like he was passing me a lunch menu. His voice was flat, emotionless. Performance issues, he said. Restructuring, he said. Effective immediately. When I tried to ask questions, he held up his hand and said, security would escort me out. That was it. 15 years reduced to a 3-minute conversation and a humiliating walk past my colleagues with a security guard at my elbow. 15 years. I joined TechVantage right out of college, 23 years old, drowning in student loan debt, and desperate to prove myself. I started as a junior marketing coordinator, making barely enough to cover rent in my tiny studio apartment, but I worked harder than anyone else. Nights, weekends, holidays. I learned everything I could about tech marketing, about our products, about our customers. I made myself indispensable. Patricia Caldwell, the company's founder and CEO, noticed me within 6 months. She was this brilliant, fierce woman in her late 50s who had built TechVantage from nothing. She started the company in her garage 25 years ago, coding software solutions while raising 2 kids and surviving a nasty divorce. By the time I joined, TechVantage was a mid-sized tech firm with 300 employees and a reputation for innovation and integrity. Patricia took me under her wing. She mentored me, challenged me, pushed me to think bigger. She promoted me to marketing manager after 2 years, then director after 4, then VP after 10. I climbed every rung of that ladder through sheer determination and Patricia's guidance. She became more than a boss. She became a friend, a mentor, a second mother. My own mom had passed away 5 years ago from breast cancer, and Patricia filled that void in ways I had not realized I needed. I missed my own sister's wedding because Patricia needed me to close a major client deal in Singapore. I canceled vacations, skipped holidays, let relationships fall apart because I was always at the office. My younger sister Emma used to joke that I was married to TechVantage. She was not wrong. I poured everything I had into that company. Then, 3 years ago, Patricia got the diagnosis. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, 6 months to live, maybe a year if she was lucky. I watched this powerhouse of a woman shrink before my eyes. The chemo ravaged her body but never broke her spirit. During her final 6 months, I spent more time at her bedside than I did at my own apartment. We talked about everything. Her regrets, her pride in what she had built, her fears for the company's future. She made me promise to help with the transition. Her nephew Derek was going to take over as CEO. Derek Thompson. Harvard MBA, charming smile, expensive suits, and a resume that looked impressive on paper. Patricia was not thrilled about appointing him, but he was family, and the board pressured her. She was too weak to fight them. I remember her gripping my hand one afternoon, her skin paper-thin, her eyes tired. She said, "Laura, promise me you will protect what we built. Promise me you will not let them destroy it." I promised. Patricia died 18 months ago. The funeral was packed with employees, clients, friends. I gave a eulogy that I barely remember delivering through my tears. And then Derek stepped in as CEO. At first, things seemed fine. Derek was smooth, polished, good at schmoozing clients and impressing the board, but I quickly realized he had no idea how to actually run the company. He did not understand our products, our culture, our values. He made decisions that contradicted everything Patricia had built. He started cutting corners, pushing for quarterly profits over long-term sustainability. He hired his own people, expensive consultants who knew nothing about our industry. I tried to guide him. I basically ran the company while he took credit. I worked 18-hour days covering for his mistakes, managing crises he created, keeping the ship steady while he played CEO. I told myself it was temporary, that he would learn, that I was honoring Patricia's memory by keeping TechVantage alive. But over the past year, things got worse. Derek started forcing out longtime executives. Our CFO retired suddenly. Our VP of engineering quit. Our head of HR took a severance package. 4 senior leaders gone in 8 months. Each time Derek replaced them with people loyal to him, people who did not question his decisions. I watched the culture Patricia built erode piece by piece. I raised concerns in executive meetings. Derek dismissed them. I pushed back on questionable financial decisions. Derek told me to stay in my lane. I noticed secretive meetings with outside investors. Derek said it was none of my business. Red flags everywhere. But I ignored them. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was grieving Patricia and seeing threats where there were none. This morning proved I was not paranoid enough. I finally pulled my phone out of my purse. My hands were still shaking. I had 17 missed calls from colleagues, dozens of texts. I could not face reading them yet. Instead, I opened my email. I still had access for another hour or two before IT shut down my account. That was standard protocol. And that is when I saw it. An email chain I had been accidentally copied on, sent at 11:47 last night. Derek to Brandon Hayes, our CFO. Subject line, final steps. My stomach dropped as I read it. Brandon, termination paperwork finalized for Lane. Board meeting at 11 a.m. tomorrow to approve the acquisition deal. She would have blocked it. Problem solved. Make sure the Meridian reps are ready. This needs to close by end of day. Derek. I read it 3 times. Then 4. Then 5. Acquisition deal. Meridian. She would have blocked it. They fired me to push through a sale. They fired me because I was in the way. I felt sick. My hands started shaking worse. I scrolled through more emails, my heart pounding. There were dozens of messages between Derek and Brandon discussing something called Project Meridian. Financial projections, valuation reports, confidentiality agreements. They were selling TechVantage. Derek was selling Patricia's company. And he fired me this morning to make sure I could not stop him. I sat in that parking lot for another 10 minutes, trying to process what I had just discovered. My mind raced through 1,000 thoughts at once. Anger, betrayal, disbelief. And underneath it all, a growing sense of urgency. If Derek was pushing this deal through at an 11 a.m. board meeting, I had less than 4 hours to figure out what to do. I started my car and drove. Not home. Not yet. I needed to think. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. I drove to a coffee shop 3 blocks away, ordered another coffee I did not need, and sat in the corner with my laptop. For the next hour, I dug through every file I had access to. Fortunately, I was the kind of person who kept backups of everything. Patricia had taught me that. She used to say, "Laura, never trust that the system will save your work. Always keep your own records. You never know when you will need them." I had copies of financial reports, strategic plans, board meeting minutes, executive communications, all saved on my personal cloud drive over the years, not because I was planning for something like this. Just because I was thorough. Obsessive, Emma called it. Paranoid, Derek would have said. Now I was grateful for my paranoia. I found references to Meridian Capital scattered throughout recent documents. They were a venture capital firm based in San Francisco, known for aggressive acquisitions and asset stripping. They bought companies, gutted them, sold off the valuable pieces, and left the rest to die. They were corporate vultures. I found a presentation Derek had created 3 months ago, projecting the sale, $47 per share, total valuation of $800 million. On paper, it looked like a great deal for shareholders. But when I dug deeper into the terms, my blood ran cold. The acquisition included massive layoffs. 80% of staff would be terminated within 6 months. Our intellectual property would be absorbed into Meridian's portfolio. The TechVantage brand would be dissolved. Our headquarters would be closed. Everything Patricia built would be erased. And Derek? He had negotiated himself a golden parachute of $40 million. Brandon would get 15 million. The board members would split another 30 million in bonuses. They were cashing out, and 300 employees would lose their jobs. Patricia built TechVantage to be different. She created a profit-sharing model where employees owned part of the company's success. She paid above market rates, offered generous benefits, created a culture of loyalty and integrity. People worked at TechVantage for decades because they believed in the mission, because Patricia believed in them. Derek was destroying all of that for a payday. I felt tears burning in my eyes. Not tears of sadness, tears of rage. My phone rang. Emma, my little sister, I answered. Laura, what happened? I just saw your LinkedIn update that you left TechVantage. Are you okay? I did not update my LinkedIn. They must have done it for me. Emma, I was fired this morning. No warning, no explanation. What, Laura? That's insane. You've been there 15 years. They can't just fire you. They can. They did. Emma, there's more. I think Derek is selling the company. I found emails, documents. He's pushing through an acquisition deal today, and he fired me to keep me from stopping it. There was a pause. Emma was a paralegal at a corporate law firm. She understood these things better than most people. Laura, if they're selling the company, there are disclosure requirements, shareholder notifications, board approvals. Did Patricia leave you anything in her will? The question hit me like a lightning bolt. Patricia's will. I had been so consumed with grief after she died that I barely paid attention to the legal proceedings. Her estate went to her 2 children. Her nephew Derek got a stake in the company, and the rest was distributed according to her wishes. But now that Emma mentioned it, I remembered something. 3 weeks before Patricia died, she gave me a locked metal box. I had visited her at home. She was so frail by then, barely able to sit up in bed, but her eyes were sharp, focused. She handed me this small, fireproof metal box, maybe 12 inches by 8 inches, with a combination lock. Laura, she had said, her voice weak but firm, keep this safe. Do not open it unless the company ever loses its way. You will know when the time is right. Promise me. I promised. I took the box home, put it in my closet, and honestly almost forgot about it. Life moved so fast after Patricia died. The funeral, the transition, the chaos of Derek taking over. The box sat in my closet for 18 months, unopened. Emma, I think Patricia left me something. I have to go. Laura, wait. If you're going to fight this, you need a lawyer. A good one. Let me make some calls. I did not wait for her to finish. I hung up, threw money on the table for my coffee, and ran to my car. 20 minutes later, I was home, tearing through my closet. I pushed aside boxes of old shoes, winter coats I never wore, and a stack of photo albums. And there it was, the metal box. Still locked, still waiting. My hands trembled as I spun the combination lock. Patricia had whispered the numbers to me that day. 3, 14, 62. I did not know what they meant, but I had not forgotten them. The lock clicked open. Inside, I found 4 items. First, a handwritten letter on Patricia's personal stationery. Her handwriting was shaky, evidence of how sick she had been, but still unmistakably hers. Second, a thick manila envelope marked confidential in all caps, for Laura's eyes only written beneath it. Third, a USB drive in a small plastic case. Fourth, a smaller sealed envelope labeled "Open this when you are ready to fight." I picked up the letter with trembling hands and began to read. My dearest Laura, if you are reading this, I am gone, and someone is trying to destroy what we built together. I suspected this might happen. Derek is weak. He is greedy. I love him because he is family, but I do not trust him with my legacy. I made sure you would have the power to stop him. I just pray you find this in time. Inside the manila envelope are documents that will explain everything. I have transferred my controlling shares to you, structured through a trust to keep it hidden until you need it. You are now the largest shareholder of TechVantage Solutions. The USB drive contains evidence I collected over the final year of my life. I knew Derek was planning something. I had my attorney investigate. What we found disgusted me, but I was too weak to fight him myself. That fight belongs to you now. There is a clause in our corporate bylaws, Clause 7B, that I inserted 15 years ago. It was my insurance policy. If you have been wronged, you can use it. Fight for our people, Laura. Fight for what we built. You are stronger than you know. You are the daughter I never had. You are my legacy. I am so proud of you. Now go make me proud one more time. With all my love, Patricia. I could not breathe. I read the letter again, tears streaming down my face. Patricia had known. She had seen this coming, and she had given me the tools to stop it. I ripped open the manila envelope. Inside the manila envelope were documents that changed everything. Stock certificates, legal agreements, transfer deeds, all bearing official seals and notarized signatures. I spread them across my kitchen table, my heart pounding as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. Patricia had transferred 38% of TechVantage Solutions directly to me over the final year of her life, not all at once. Small transfers, structured carefully through something called the Patricia Caldwell Trust for Corporate Integrity. Each transfer was filed with the Delaware Secretary of State, completely legal, completely binding, but structured in a way that kept my name hidden from public shareholder records. I was listed as a silent beneficiary until certain triggering events occurred. I scanned through the legal language, trying to understand. The trust documents were dense, full of legalese, but the core message was clear. If I was terminated without cause, the shares would activate under my name. If the company was sold without my consent, the shares would activate. If any executive engaged in fraud or embezzlement, the shares would activate. Derek had just triggered all three conditions. I plugged the USB drive into my laptop with shaking hands. The files were password protected. I tried Patricia's birthday. Wrong. I tried the combination to the metal box. 31462. The files unlocked. What I found inside made me sick. Financial audits showing Derek had been embezzling money for 2 years. Over $3 million funneled through fake consulting contracts, inflated expense reports, and offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Email chains between Derek and Brandon discussing how to hide the theft. Falsified board meeting minutes to cover their tracks. There were recordings, too. Audio files of Derek on phone calls with Meridian Capital representatives, discussing how to make TechVantage look weaker than it actually was to justify a lower valuation. He had been deliberately tanking our quarterly earnings, cutting profitable projects, driving away key clients, all to make the company look like it needed to be sold. He was destroying Patricia's company on purpose, to make himself rich. One document stood out among the rest, a signed affidavit from Patricia, dated 1 week before her death. I read it through tears. I, Patricia Ann Caldwell, being of sound mind, do hereby testify that I fear my nephew Derek Thompson will attempt to sell or dismantle TechVantage Solutions for personal financial gain. I have observed concerning behavior, secretive meetings, and financial irregularities that suggest corruption. I am transferring my controlling shares to Laura Catherine Lane, my most trusted executive and protege, to preserve the integrity of TechVantage and protect its employees. I made a mistake trusting Derek. He is my blood, but Laura is my legacy. This is my final act as founder and CEO to ensure the company survives beyond me. The document was notarized, witnessed by her personal attorney, and filed with her estate. Patricia had known Derek was corrupt even before she died. She just could not prove it without destroying the company in the process. So she set up this elaborate contingency plan. And she trusted me to execute it when the time came. I felt the weight of that trust crushing down on me. Patricia had given me power. But power meant nothing if I did not use it. I picked up my phone and dialed the number on one of the legal documents. Gerald Whitman, attorney at law, Patricia's personal lawyer. Now retired, living in Scottsdale, Arizona. He answered on the third ring. Gerald Whitman. Mr. Whitman, my name is Laura Lane. I worked with Patricia Caldwell at TechVantage Solutions. I'm calling because I found documents she left me. There was a long pause. Then his voice changed, became urgent. Laura, dear God. Patricia told me you might call. She made me swear not to contact you unless you reached out first. She wanted you to choose this fight, not have it forced on you. Have you opened everything? Yes. The letter, the stock certificates, the USB drive. Mr. Whitman, I was fired this morning. Derek is pushing through a sale to Meridian Capital. The board meeting is at 11 a.m. I have less than 3 hours. Then, we do not have much time. Laura, everything Patricia left you is legitimate. I handled the transfers myself. You own 38% of TechVantage, making you the single largest shareholder. Derek inherited 22% from Patricia's estate. The rest is split among board members and employee stock options. You have controlling interest. I felt dizzy. Controlling interest of a company I was fired from 4 hours ago. There is something else you need to know. Patricia inserted a clause into the corporate bylaws 15 years ago, Clause 7B. It states that if any executive holding more than 30% of company shares is wrongfully terminated, they can trigger an emergency shareholder meeting and call for a vote of no confidence in current leadership. I pulled up the bylaws document on my laptop, searching for Clause 7B. There it was, buried in Section 7, subsection B, under Emergency Shareholder Provisions. Mr. Whitman, Derek fired me without cause this morning. Does that qualify? If you can prove it was wrongful termination, absolutely. And based on what Patricia documented, you have all the proof you need. Laura, you can stop this sale. You can remove Derek as CEO, but you have to move fast. Once that board votes to approve the Meridian deal, it becomes exponentially harder to reverse. I looked at the clock. 9:23 a.m. 1 hour and 37 minutes until the board meeting. What do I need to do? You need a lawyer. The best corporate litigation attorney you can find. Someone who can walk into that boardroom with you and invoke Clause 7B before Derek knows what hit him. Do you know anyone? My sister Emma is a paralegal. She said she would make calls. Then call her now. And Laura? Patricia believed in you. She chose you for a reason. Do not let her down. I hung up and immediately called Emma. Emma answered on the first ring. I already called Diane Sullivan. She is expecting you. Laura, she is the best. She has taken down 3 Fortune 500 CEOs for fraud. If anyone can help you, it is her. Emma texted me an address. Downtown Seattle, 23 minutes away in current traffic. I grabbed the metal box with all of Patricia's documents, the USB drive, my laptop, and ran to my car. I drove faster than I should have, weaving through late morning traffic, my mind racing faster than my car. By the time I pulled into the parking garage of the sleek glass building housing Sullivan & Associates, it was 9:47 a.m. I took the elevator to the 14th floor, my heart hammering in my chest. The receptionist barely had time to announce me before a woman in her 50s with sharp gray eyes and an expensive navy suit strode into the lobby. Laura Lane? I am Diane Sullivan. Follow me. She led me to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Puget Sound. No small talk, no pleasantries, just straight to business. You have 58 minutes before that board meeting. Tell me everything. I dumped the metal box on her desk. The documents spilled out. The stock certificates, the trust agreements, Patricia's affidavit, the USB drive. I told her about my firing, about Derek's embezzlement, about the Meridian deal, about Clause 7B. Diane reviewed the documents with the speed and precision of someone who had done this 1,000 times. She plugged in the USB drive, scanned through the financial evidence, read Patricia's affidavit. Her expression shifted from skeptical to astonished in less than 8 minutes. This is ironclad. Patricia Caldwell was a genius. You have the shares, the standing, and the evidence. We can invoke Clause 7B and stop this sale dead in its tracks. But we need to move now. They will try to stop me. Derek will say I am fired, that I have no authority to even enter the building. Let them try. You are the largest single shareholder. You have every legal right to attend that board meeting. And when we present Clause 7B, Derek's acquisition deal dies on the table. She paused, her eyes locking on mine. But Laura, you need to understand what you are walking into. This will get ugly. Derek will fight back. He will threaten, lie, manipulate. Are you ready for that? I thought about Patricia's letter. Fight for our people, Laura. Fight for what we built. I am ready. Good. Then let us go destroy Derek Thompson's day. We gathered the documents, packed them into a leather briefcase Diane pulled from her cabinet, and headed for the elevator. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica Monroe, the VP of Operations. One of the few executives who survived Derek's purge over the past year. Laura, I heard you were fired. I am so sorry. I need to tell you something. Derek called an emergency board meeting. I was not invited, but I overheard him on the phone. He is pushing through the Meridian deal today without full board disclosure. Something feels wrong. Be careful. I texted back immediately. Jessica, meet me in the TechVantage parking lot in 15 minutes. I need you there. Her response was almost instant. I am scared. Derek has been firing anyone who questions him. I know. But this ends today. Trust me. After a long pause, okay, I will be there. Diane and I drove separately to TechVantage. I arrived at 10:38 a.m. Jessica was waiting by her car, looking pale and nervous. She was 42, a brilliant operations executive who had been with TechVantage for 12 years. Patricia had loved her. Jessica ran to me the moment I got out of my car. Laura, what is going on? Why are you here? They fired you. I am here because I am a shareholder, and I am about to stop Derek from destroying this company. Jessica's eyes widened. Shareholder? Laura, I do not understand. Diane stepped forward. Miss Monroe, I am Diane Sullivan, Miss Lane's attorney. We do not have time to explain everything, but Laura has legal standing to attend this board meeting. We need a witness. Are you willing to come with us? Jessica looked terrified, but she nodded. Patricia trusted you, Laura. That is enough for me. The three of us walked through the TechVantage lobby together. My security badge had been deactivated, but Jessica used her access to get us through the turnstiles. Employees stared. I could see confusion on their faces. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked away, afraid to be associated with me. We took the elevator to the 12th floor where the executive conference room was located. The closer we got, the louder my heart pounded. I could hear Derek's voice through the door, booming, confident, completely unaware that his world was about to collapse. And with the termination of Laura Lane finalized this morning, there are no remaining obstacles. Meridian's offer is $47 per share. We vote now, and by noon, we are all very wealthy. I looked at Diane. She nodded. I pushed the door open and walked in. The conference room fell into immediate, shocked silence. 12 people were seated around the long mahogany table. Derek stood at the head, mid-presentation, his hand frozen on the remote control for the PowerPoint display. The screen behind him showed a slide that read Acquisition Vote. Final approval in bold letters. Brandon Hayes, the CFO, sat to Derek's right, his expression smug. 6 board members occupied the middle seats, most of them looking bored until I walked in. 2 men in expensive suits at the far end had to be the Meridian Capital representatives, and a woman I did not recognize sat next to Derek taking notes, probably his personal attorney. Derek's face went from frozen surprise to white-hot fury in 2 seconds. Laura, you were terminated this morning. You have no authorization to be here. Security! I stayed calm, my voice steady, even though my hands were shaking. I am here as a shareholder. I have every legal right to attend this meeting. Derek's laugh was harsh, mocking. You do not own shares in this company. You are a salaried employee, a former employee. You have no standing here. Get out before I have you arrested for trespassing. Diane stepped forward, placing her briefcase on the table with a deliberate thud. Actually, Mr. Thompson, my client owns 38% of TechVantage Solutions, making her the single largest shareholder of this company. She has every legal right to be present at any board meeting, especially one involving the potential sale of the company she partially owns. The room erupted. What? That is impossible. Who are you? Brandon jumped to his feet, his face red. That is absurd. I have reviewed the shareholder registry personally. Patricia's shares were distributed to her estate, and Derek inherited the controlling stake. Diane opened her briefcase and pulled out the folder of documents. These are certified documents from the Delaware Secretary of State, filed over 18 months ago. Patricia Caldwell transferred her controlling shares to Laura Lane via an irrevocable trust. The transfer was legal, binding, and filed with all appropriate regulatory bodies. One of the board members, an older gentleman named Martin Cross, who had worked with Patricia for 20 years, leaned forward. His expression was grave, skeptical. Let me see those documents. Diane handed them across the table. Martin put on his reading glasses and began reviewing them carefully. The room waited in tense silence. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Martin's face changed as he read. Surprise? then recognition, then something that looked like respect. These are legitimate. I recognize Patricia's signature. I was her attorney before I joined the board. This is her handwriting on the notary affidavit. She signed these documents knowing exactly what she was doing. Derek lunged across the table, trying to grab the folder from Martin's hands. This is fraud. Patricia was on morphine. She did not know what she was signing. She was manipulated. Martin pulled the documents away from Derek's reach, his voice cold and sharp. Patricia Caldwell was sharp as a tack until her final day. I spoke with her 1 week before she passed. She told me she had taken steps to protect the company's future. I assumed she meant the succession plan. I see now she meant something far more specific. Helen Torres, one of the other board members, a woman in her 60s who ran her own consulting firm, spoke up. If Laura owns 38%, she has majority shareholder rights. Derek, why were we not informed of this? Derek's face was turning purple. Because it is a lie. Some scheme Laura concocted after Patricia died to steal the company. Diane's voice cut through the chaos like a knife. Mr. Thompson, every document here is certified by the state of Delaware, notarized by licensed attorneys, and filed according to proper legal protocols. If you are suggesting fraud, you are accusing your own aunt of criminal activity while she was dying of cancer. Is that really the position you want to take? Derek opened his mouth, then closed it. I could see his mind racing, trying to find an angle, a way out. The Meridian representative stood up, clearly uncomfortable. Perhaps we should table this discussion. If there are shareholder disputes that need to be resolved, we can revisit the acquisition at a later date. Derek spun toward them, desperate. There is no dispute. She is lying. But I could see it in the Meridian reps' faces. They wanted out. Corporate acquisitions involving shareholder litigation were messy, expensive, and risky. They gathered their briefcases and moved toward the door. We will be in touch, Mr. Thompson. Once this situation is clarified. They left. Derek stared at the closed door, his carefully constructed deal evaporating in front of him. I found my voice. Stronger now. Then let me clarify the situation. You fired me this morning because you knew I would never let you sell this company. You have been planning this acquisition for over a year, systematically removing anyone loyal to Patricia's vision. You wanted me out of the way so you could push this deal through without opposition. Derek turned on me, his eyes blazing. You have no proof of that. I nodded to Diane. She placed a second folder on the table. Actually, I do. She spread out printed emails from the USB drive. Financial records showing Derek's embezzlement. Falsified expense reports totaling over $3 million. Offshore account statements from the Cayman Islands. Email chains between Derek and Brandon discussing how to hide the theft. You have been stealing from this company for 2 years, Derek. You were never going to save TechVantage. You were going to gut it, take your $40 million payout, and walk away while 300 people lost their jobs. Patricia knew what you were. That is why she made sure I could stop you. Brandon's face had gone pale. He was staring at the financial documents like they were a death sentence. Helen Torres picked up one of the emails, her hands shaking. This email is from the company server. Derek, these are your exact words. You discuss inflating consulting fees to hide personal expenses. This is embezzlement. Another board member, a man named Richard Paulson, who ran a venture capital fund, looked sick. You told us the Meridian deal was the only way to save the company. You showed us projections that said we were losing money. But these records show TechVantage is profitable. You lied to us. Derek was backed into a corner, and cornered animals are dangerous. You are all going to believe some disgruntled ex-employee over me? I am the CEO. Patricia chose me. Martin Cross stood up, his voice filled with disgust. Patricia chose you because you were family and she was dying, but she clearly did not trust you. That is why she did all of this. He gestured at the documents scattered across the table. Derek, what have you done? The room felt like it was collapsing in on Derek. Every board member was staring at him with a mixture of shock, betrayal, and anger. The carefully cultivated image of the charming, competent CEO was disintegrating before my eyes. Diane spoke with the calm authority of someone who had done this many times before. Under Clause 7B of the TechVantage corporate bylaws, any shareholder holding more than 30% of company shares who has been wrongfully terminated can call for an emergency vote of no confidence in current leadership. Laura Lane was terminated this morning without cause, without documentation, and without proper severance. I am formally invoking Clause 7B on her behalf. Derek's attorney, the woman who had been sitting quietly taking notes, finally spoke up. There has to be a proper review process. You cannot just remove a CEO based on accusations. Martin Cross pulled out his own copy of the corporate bylaws from his briefcase. Board members always came prepared. Clause 7B is very clear. In cases of wrongful termination combined with shareholder majority, an immediate vote can be called. The bylaws Patricia wrote were specifically designed to prevent exactly this kind of corruption. She was a genius. Helen Torres looked at Derek with something like pity. I have suspected financial irregularities for months. I called for an independent audit 3 times. You blocked it every time, Derek. You told us everything was fine, that I was overreacting. But I knew something was wrong. Richard Paulson nodded. The Meridian deal never made sense to me. We are a profitable company. Our products are solid. Our client base is loyal. But you kept pushing this narrative that we needed to sell or die. Now I see why. You were manufacturing a crisis to justify the sale. Brandon, the CFO, suddenly cracked. His voice came out shaky, desperate. I did not know about the embezzlement. I swear. Derek told me those transfers were legitimate executive compensation restructuring approved by the board. I thought they were legal. Diane turned her sharp gaze on him. Then you were either complicit or incompetent, Mr. Hayes. Either way, your career here is over. Jessica, who had been standing quietly near the door, finally spoke up. Her voice was soft but steady. I have been documenting everything for 6 months. Derek has been forcing department heads to falsify budget reports to make the company look weaker than it actually is. He threatened to fire anyone who questioned him. I have emails, recorded conversations. I kept them because I knew something was wrong, but I was too scared to come forward alone. I looked at Jessica with gratitude. You were brave to keep those records, Jessica. Thank you. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. You gave me the courage to stand up, Laura. You always did. Martin Cross addressed the room. We need to vote. All in favor of removing Derek Thompson as CEO of TechVantage Solutions, effective immediately. Every hand went up. Derek's attorney did not even try to stop it. She knew it was over. Derek stood there, frozen, his face cycling through rage, disbelief, and humiliation. Then he exploded. You are all going to regret this. I will sue every single one of you. This company will be destroyed in litigation. You just made the biggest mistake of your lives. Diane's voice was ice cold. Mr. Thompson, I have already contacted the FBI's white-collar crime division. They are very interested in speaking with you regarding the embezzlement evidence we have compiled. I suggest you retain criminal defense counsel. Immediately. Derek stopped mid-rant. The color drained from his face. He looked at Brandon, who was staring at the floor, then back at the board members who had just voted him out. Without another word, Derek turned and walked out of the conference room. His attorney scurried after him, already on her phone, probably calling a criminal defense lawyer. Brandon quietly stood, gathered his things, and followed Derek out. He did not say goodbye. He did not defend himself. He just left. The room fell into heavy silence. Helen Torres finally spoke. We need emergency leadership. This company cannot function without a CEO. Laura, you are the largest shareholder. You have Patricia's trust, and clearly her vision. Will you step in as interim CEO? I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. I am not sure I am qualified. I have never been a CEO. Martin Cross smiled for the first time. You ran this company while Derek took credit. We all know it, Laura. You kept us afloat through the transition after Patricia died. You are more than qualified. You are exactly what this company needs. Richard Paulson nodded. I vote yes. Laura Lane as interim CEO, effective immediately. One by one, every board member voted in favor. It was unanimous. Helen looked at me with warmth in her eyes. Patricia would be so proud of you. I felt tears threatening to spill over, but I held them back. I accept. And my first act as CEO is to formally reject the Meridian Capital acquisition. TechVantage is not for sale. The board members nodded in agreement. The meeting adjourned at 11:58 a.m., 2 minutes before noon. Derek had promised everyone they would be wealthy by noon. Instead, he was unemployed and facing federal charges. As everyone filed out, shaking my hand, congratulating me, promising their support, Martin approached me privately. He handed me a sealed envelope. Patricia left this with me before she died. She told me to give it to you when you took your rightful place. I did not understand what she meant until today. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was another handwritten note on Patricia's stationery. Laura, you are standing in my office now as CEO. I knew you would fight when the time came. I knew you would not let Derek destroy what we built. Lead with integrity. Protect our people. Make me proud. You already have. With all my love. Patricia. I broke down then, tears streaming down my face, shoulders shaking. Diane put a hand on my shoulder. She knew. She always knew. I nodded, unable to speak. Jessica came over and hugged me tight. We are going to be okay now. You saved us, Laura. I finally found my voice. No, Patricia saved us. I just finished what she started. 6 months later, I sat in Patricia's former office, my office now. The early morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the Seattle skyline. I had a cup of coffee in my hand, steam rising in delicate spirals, and I was reviewing the quarterly earnings report that Jessica had sent me the night before. The numbers were good. Better than good. TechVantage had not just survived the chaos of Derek's removal. We were thriving. In the first month after I took over as CEO, I made sweeping changes. I restructured the executive team, promoting from within. Jessica became VP of Operations officially, with a raise and equity stake. I brought back 2 of the executives Derek had forced out. I hired a new CFO from outside the company, someone with impeccable credentials and zero connection to Derek. I implemented radical transparency, monthly all-hands meetings where I shared financial reports, strategic plans, and answered every question employees had, no matter how difficult. I reinstated Patricia's profit-sharing model that Derek had quietly dismantled. I increased salaries across the board and improved benefits. Most importantly, I rebuilt trust. The company culture that had eroded under Derek's 18 months slowly came back to life. People stopped looking over their shoulders. They started collaborating again, innovating, taking risks. TechVantage felt like TechVantage again. Derek was arrested 3 months ago. The FBI investigation moved quickly once they had Patricia's evidence. He was charged with embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy. He was currently awaiting trial. His lawyers were trying to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutors were pushing for 15 years in federal prison. Brandon cooperated with investigators immediately. He claimed he did not know about the embezzlement, and the evidence suggested he was telling the truth. He received 5 years probation, lost his CPA license, and would never work in corporate finance again. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The Meridian Capital deal died the day I walked into that board meeting. They wanted nothing to do with a company embroiled in shareholder disputes and federal investigations. Good riddance. My personal life had changed, too. Emma visited the office at least once a week now. We had dinner together regularly. She kept telling me how proud she was, how proud Mom would have been, how Patricia was looking down and smiling. I even started dating again, cautiously. A graphic designer named Ryan who worked in the building. He knew nothing about the corporate drama when we met, which was refreshing. He asked me out for coffee and I said yes. We had been seeing each other for 3 months now. It was nice, normal. He made me laugh. He reminded me that life existed outside of TechVantage, but I still worked long hours. Some habits die hard. The difference now was that I had boundaries. I left the office by 7 p.m. most nights. I took weekends off. I went to my sister's place for Sunday dinners. I was learning to live again. I installed a framed photo of Patricia on my desk, right next to the metal box she had left me. Every morning, I looked at that photo and silently thanked her. For believing in me. For trusting me with her legacy. For giving me the weapons I needed to fight back. The life lesson Patricia taught me echoed every day. Your value is not determined by who dismisses you. It is determined by what you stand for when everything tells you to walk away. I spent 15 years making myself small. I let people take credit for my ideas. I worked in the shadows, believing that humility and loyalty would be enough. I told myself I was being a team player, that I was honoring Patricia by supporting Derek. But Patricia did not want me to support Derek. She wanted me to replace him. I just had not known it until she was gone. The truth is, I was terrified that morning in the parking lot. Terrified when I opened Patricia's metal box. Terrified when I walked into that board meeting. But I did it anyway. Because fear is not the absence of courage. Courage is doing what is right, even when you are shaking. Last week, I recorded my first monthly video message to TechVantage employees. Patricia used to do this. Personal updates from the CEO. Just her, talking directly to the camera. No script, no corporate polish. I wanted to bring that tradition back. I sat in front of the camera and said, 6 months ago I was fired from the company I loved. I was humiliated, angry, and lost. But I learned something crucial that day. Your value is not determined by who dismisses you. It is determined by what you stand for when no one is watching. Patricia built this company on integrity. She believed every single person here mattered. That we are not just a business, we are a community. And communities protect each other. I promise you, as long as I am CEO, we will never forget that. We will never put profits over people. We will never compromise our values for a quick payout. We are TechVantage. And we are going to keep building something that makes Patricia proud. The response was overwhelming. Employees sent me hundreds of emails thanking me, telling me their own stories of standing up, of fighting back, of refusing to be silenced. It reminded me that my story was not unique. It was universal. Everyone has faced a Derek Thompson at some point. A boss who takes credit. A leader who betrays trust. A system that undervalues you. The question is, what do you do when that moment comes? This morning, my assistant brought in the mail. Among the usual stack of contracts and invoices was an envelope from the FBI. I opened it carefully. Inside was a formal notification. Derek's assets had been seized as part of the criminal proceedings. Restitution would be paid to TechVantage for the embezzled funds. $3.2 million, plus interest and penalties. I smiled and filed it away. The money mattered, but it was not what made me happy. What made me happy was justice. What made me happy was knowing that corruption had consequences. That good people could win if they fought hard enough. I walked through the office that afternoon, stopping to chat with employees, checking on projects, offering encouragement. The energy was different now. People smiled when they saw me. They waved. They stopped me to share ideas, to ask questions, to tell me about their lives outside of work. This was what Patricia wanted. Not just a profitable company, a human company. I paused at the window overlooking the city. The Seattle skyline stretched out before me, glass and steel and endless possibility. Somewhere out there, Derek was sitting in a holding cell or a lawyer's office facing the ruins of his own greed. Brandon was probably updating his resume, trying to explain away a federal conviction. And I was here, leading the company I loved, protecting the people who depended on me, honoring the woman who believed I could. They tried to erase me at 7:01 that morning. By 11:59, I owned the company. But the real victory was not the title. It was not the power. It was not even the justice. The real victory was reclaiming my voice, refusing to let corruption win, standing up for what Patricia taught me. Integrity matters more than profit, people matter more than deals, and sometimes the only way to honor someone's legacy is to fight like hell to protect it. Patricia used to say, "The company is only as strong as the people who fight for it." I fought, and we won. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced a moment where you had to stand up against someone in power? Have you ever been underestimated or pushed aside only to prove everyone wrong? What did you learn from that experience? Share your story in the comments below. Your courage might inspire someone else who needs to hear it today. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story about standing up, fighting back, and finding your voice. And share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that they are stronger than they think. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. And remember, your value is not determined by who dismisses you. It is determined by what you stand for when everything tells you to walk away. Stay strong, stay brave, and never let anyone tell you that you do not belong in the room where decisions are made. Until next time.